We naturally avoid difficulty and stay in our comfort zone whenever we can. But that comfort zone is exactly what's holding you back. In this video, I'll explain 3 main reasons why you need to practice getting out of it and where to start. So let's dive in. Most people think that comfort zone is something that is fixed. Like once you get to a certain point of being comfortable with the thing that initially was uncomfortable, now you're going to stay there. But that's not the case. Comfort zone is like a muscle. If you don't work on it, you will lose it. It's not something that you unlock and then it just stays there forever. It's something you have to keep maintaining. Think about it this way. If you want to work on your social skills and now you go and have conversations with people, initiate meetings and start attending different kind of networking or social events, your skills will start to improve and you will start to get better at communication and engaging with others to the point where now it might start to feel like your actual comfort zone at some point, whereas before it felt something very uncomfortable, something that's very strange or unfamiliar. But now, what if you stop doing it? You stop initiating conversations, you stop meeting people, you literally stop leaving your house. As a result, you won't stay at the same level that you were at. You will start to move backwards. And sometimes you can end up moving so much backwards that you might actually end up being at a worse place than you were even before you started to work on this skill in the first place. Same thing with fitness. You can't just do healthy diet, exercise, move, and get to a certain level of fitness and health and then just stop and expect things to stay as they were. Naturally, you will start to get less fit. You might get out of shape if you don't stay up with the habits that you had initially created. The good thing is, though, that once you get to a certain level, it's easier to maintain those things because now it's kind of your natural rhythm, or it's more like a habit. It's more like part of your lifestyle. It's not as uncomfortable. So once those discomfortable things become comfortable, a lot of times it's not as hard to maintain them as it is at the beginning to initiate them. Also, with all this, it doesn't mean that you now have to have every single area of your life working on all the time. First of all, it's not sustainable because you're probably going to burn out and you will not really get any real progress because you can't really focus on too many things at once, especially if you want to stay consistent with them. You might be able to have spurts of intensity in some of them, but then you're probably going to crash and burn and you're going to go through the whole circle again. And I have talked about this loop several times in the past. So you want to avoid that. And ideally, you want to focus on 1 or 2 things at the same time, not more than that. The rest you might put into what I call maintenance mode, where the focus is to maintain them, not necessarily to accelerate, improve, and get better. So that way, you make sure that the comfort zone kind of stays where it was and you're not moving backwards. The second one is a bit harder to catch in real time because it's not just that your skills and abilities shrink, it's also that your fear gets bigger the less you step into that discomfort zone. Every time you avoid the thing that scares you or getting out of comfort zone, you're not just staying neutral. You're actually giving into the fear and you're giving it more power by saying that fear is right. This is too much. This is too hard. I can't do this. I can't really handle this. And not only that, every time that you tell the story and you back it up with action, which might be procrastinating or putting it off or just not doing the thing, now you're actually starting to stack up proof why it is too hard, why you are not capable, because of all these times that you had intention to do it, but you ended up not doing it. And as a result, the fear that initially felt manageable now starts to build and get bigger every time that you make decision not to face the discomfort or not to step out of your comfort zone until you literally get to the point where now you're paralyzed. That's why it's very important to face the things while they're still small, because fear is not going to wait until you're going to feel ready. It's just going to keep growing bigger and bigger the longer you leave it alone. And the third thing that I want to keep you in mind is that it spreads to other areas as well. When you build momentum in one area, like for example, you start to get better in fitness, you get healthier, you feel better, it will naturally start to overflow in other areas as well. You might show up differently in relationships. You might have higher energy. You might be more positive. You might be more driven at work. You might have actually more energy to work longer or to be more efficient, where you can actually focus better. You also might get better at setting boundaries, because the more you respect yourself and you show yourself respect, the less you're gonna tolerate others not respecting you. So once you start to build this momentum, it will spread. But there's also a negative momentum that you can start building, where every time that you decide not to do something, every time that you decide to skip, postpone, or quit, now you're starting to build momentum in the opposite direction. Like, for example, if you now stop going to the gym, you don't really look after what you eat, you start to gain weight, you actually feel a bit more sluggish, you can't think clearly, it's not going to affect just the fitness and health. You will show up differently in your relationships. You will show up differently at work. And that way, it will spread in other areas as well. Momentum is momentum. It goes both ways. It can be the positive, it can be the negative. But just be mindful that something that can start as you avoiding one small thing in one area, it can now take over your life, where it gets to the point where it's not just a choice. It feels like this is who you are now. You're somebody who doesn't do it. You're somebody who stays stuck. You're somebody who chooses the easier option. I know that to be true in my life, because some good 5-6 years ago, I was pretty isolated during the COVID, and I started to gain weight to the point where I was like proper overweight, and I did not have any strength. I didn't have any cardio. I was not eating well. And with that, kind of the overflowing effect was that I started to feel a lot of shame. So I started to literally isolate myself from being social or meeting people, because I didn't want to face the shame. And also, I knew that you can't really hide your body. People are going to see. And I got to the point where I literally would just isolate myself. And that affected literally every area: my relationships, my personal life, my career, everything. And it seems like it's just a small decision of, oh, I'm just going to treat myself, or I'm not feeling well, I'm just going to get some snack, or whatever might be the case. But that one decision literally overtook my whole life, to the point where there was no area that actually was going well in my life. So you want to be very, very mindful of your decisions and the path that they're going to lead you down, and how just stepping out of your comfort zone one time can lead to you expanding this comfort zone, but also you now start to build your confidence, your self-respect. And with those things, you naturally will start to build better life for yourself. And with that, show up better for others. So how do you actually start practicing getting out of comfort zone? It's not about overwhelming yourself with trying to do everything at once. That way, you're just going to crash and burn and make sure you fail and never succeed. Also, it's not sustainable. And with that, you just make sure that it's not going to be there for the long term. So what you want to do actually is to take small, manageable steps on a consistent basis. Because if you have tried to fix everything all at once, it actually wasn't because of your willpower or that you're being lazy. It's because you tried to fix everything all at once, you jumped into the deep end, and your nervous system just couldn't keep up. And that's not a failure, it's just doing it in a way that's not sustainable. So here's what to do instead. Pick one area of your life that you want to work on. It might be health, it might be career, it might be your relationships. Just pick one area that you would want to work on and improve. And you don't want to overthink it. Just pick one. You probably have one that kind of came up in your mind. Pick that one. Something that you genuinely want to work on, or something that bothers you, or you feel like it's making you shrink, rather than trying to work on something that you think will make you impressive or others gonna like. Just check in with yourself. What is it that you genuinely want to work on, that you genuinely want to improve? And that probably is the one area that you want to start with. Now you want to identify what is it that you actually want it to look like. What would be not necessarily the end goal, but at least kind of the next level goal of what would be the next step in evolution in this area. And so, for example, instead of wanting to have 6-pack, maybe you want to be able to run 1 mile, or whatever might be the case. And after you get clear on what is that next step goal, think about some things that you could actually do, some action steps that you could take. And you also want to approach it from the perspective of making it so small that it feels ridiculous not to do it. So instead of exercising 2 hours a day, it might be 5-minute exercise, something that you know that you can actually sustain over long term, because initially the goal is not intensity, it is consistency. And with time, as you will take the action and will actually execute on it, your tolerance will grow, so you'll be able to start adding more and making it a bit more bigger or longer or harder. And then once that becomes your new normal, you can start adding more. But you need to start somewhere, and you need to start at the level that is not going to burn you out. Otherwise, you will burn out within a couple of days or weeks, and that will be it. And also, every time you follow through, you're now stacking proof that you actually do the thing, you are getting out of comfort zone, and you are somebody who's taking action and showing up for yourself. And that belief is going to spread to other areas as well. So if there's one thing that you can take from this, comfort doesn't stay still. Either you are the one growing it on purpose, or it's shrinking without your permission. That's why you want to work on it constantly. You want to get regularly out of your comfort zone, and you want to challenge yourself. And with time, you actually might end up enjoying it and looking at it as something fun.